Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to rank all of the Mission Impossible movies. Welcome back, Kernels, to another video. So, you probably already saw my Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning video, which I put out a whole review talking about everything that went on in that movie, probably hoping to see it again. But now that that movie's out, and so as for the near future, I don't think we're getting any more Mission Impossible movies. So, with that, I decided let's rank all of the Mission Impossible movies from the worst to the best. Now, before I start, I've got to say this just because I know someone's going to get mad at me. This is my list. Not your list, my list. If you want to leave your list down in the comments, leave your list down in the comments. We can talk about that. But really, all of these movies are good. It's really just a matter of like trying to choose your favorite child. So with that said, subscribe so you don't miss any more rankings, and let's talk about the Mission Impossible movies. Easily coming in last place, I have Mission Impossible 2. When I think of this movie, I think of just the ugly stepsister of the Mission Impossible franchise. Now, granted, when this movie came out, the Mission Impossible, I guess you could say, precedent hadn't really been set yet because, again, this is only the second movie. So I kind of try to sometimes give it a pass, but then you just compare it to the other movies and it's like, what were they thinking? I love Ethan Hunt's hair in this. He's got the, big wavy hair and everything, and it looks great. But this does not feel like a Mission Impossible movie. This feels like any other 90s action movie, which isn't a bad thing, but this is Mission Impossible. It's supposed to have that certain flair to it, and this just doesn't have it for me. It has a kind of a neat storyline, but it doesn't relate to anything at all. So that's why it comes in dead last for me. One step up from that at number 7, I have the original Mission Impossible. And this movie is actually pretty good. Obviously, it's the first in the franchise, and it does a lot of things right. It has a lot of the classic scenes, obviously, again, because it's the first movie. But the whole thing of him breaking into the vault and like the whole room having like a temperature like decoder thing and him having to get on the computer. It's just all classic Mission Impossible. When anyone talks about it, obviously they're gonna talk about this movie because it's the first one. I can't tell you exactly why, but I love this one now even more so because of something that they did in The Final Reckoning, and it just makes this movie better. So at number 6, I have Ghost Protocol. This is the point in the series where I give every movie from here on up at least a 4.5 or a 5 star, which really should just speak volumes to how good this series is. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is a good movie. The only reason it's lower than a lot of these, I know a lot of people love this movie, and I like a lot of the gadgets and like the bombing that ends up happening in this movie. All that stuff's really cool. However, if you compare it to a lot of the plots from anything above this, it's just not there. The plot is good, but it's not great. It's not, I don't know, it just doesn't feel, the stakes don't feel as high, if you know what I mean. I do have a certain appreciation though for this movie because this is the movie where Benji really comes into play as part of like a full member of the team. So in that regard, I do like it, and also Jeremy Renner joins the cast in this one. So there are reasons why I like it. And of course, like the whole thing with like the magnetic gloves, that's a really cool scene. You'll notice one of my things about like the middle area of the Mission Impossible movies are like the more like breaking into areas. And I'm gonna kind of touch on that when we get to Rogue Nation. At number 5, I have Mission Impossible 3, probably the most serious of the bunch. That or either The Final Reckoning. This movie is, again, it's somewhat of an outlier, but in a good way. It definitely still feels like a Mission Impossible movie, unlike 2, but it has a much more serious undertone, rightfully so, because it also deals with, Ethan's love life, and this is really the only movie where we get to see more of like a regular life Ethan Hunt, which we only get to see it for a little bit, but it's pretty cool. This movie also has probably, I'd say, one of the best villains in the series, as he's just a menace. But I love the scene. One of my favorite scenes that I always talk about in this movie is, of course, the awesome opening scene to this movie. Just the way, everything's great. Everything is great. But I love the part where they have to, to become Philip Seymour. Now, I love him as an actor, but then when they have to try and like be him and like the voice thing isn't working yet, so they're like and like do that whole sequence is great. And I think the real one's right behind the door, like he's like knocked out and stuff. It's just a great movie. It's just a great movie that was kind of like, it's able to stand on its own a little bit, but also still be part of like the big picture Mission Impossible series. Coming in at number 4, I actually have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I really enjoy this movie so much, in fact, that I actually give it 5 stars. I consider it like a low 5-star, but you get the point, right? I think the movie has probably the best stakes and just like drama, like intensity of the whole entire franchise. It really makes it known, hey, this is the final like Mission Impossible movie, but this is like probably the biggest threat. Because you remember kind of like in Fallout where they were like, oh, we're gonna starve 1/3 of the Earth's population. In this, it's just like, no, the entity's going to kill everyone and find like a safe bunker to hide in, and that's it. And one of the things that I talked about in my review is that they really, I mean, like, they really hunker down on the fact that like they are about to make this like huge decision. And I don't know, like just through, I guess, cutting back in between scenes, they really focus on that. And I like that a lot. However, there are points where it's like, because this is the final Mission Impossible movie, I don't want to call it the endgame effect, but I'm going to just for talking purposes. They do a little bit more exposition and not enough, you know, Mission Impossible. I do like the submarine scene, the plane scene, and a lot of the little action scenes that are mixed in between, but I felt like with such high stakes, I could have used a little bit more one-on-one tension, or like a place they go into that they have to like sneak into. I would have loved something like that. And cracking the top 3, I have Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. This movie is obviously the precursor to The Final Reckoning, in which the entity is introduced. The only reason I have this movie slightly above is because it very much balances exactly my little critique that I had with The Final Reckoning. In that Dead Reckoning Part 1, you have the airport scene where it's like trying to figure out who has what, learning about the entity, and there's a couple of neat tricks that the entity does in that movie that I really liked, such as like hacking the comms, using like the algorithm to predict people doing things. There's a lot less of that in The Final Reckoning, and I don't know if I like that. I wish we would have got to see the entity pull off more stuff. Dead Reckoning also has, you know, Ethan Hunt going off of the motorcycle and falling off of the ledge on the train. It's really just a great movie. And I also love all the car stunts that they do with Haley Atwell in this movie as well. Coming in at number 2, I have Mission Impossible: Fallout. I know this is a lot of people's favorite, and I absolutely, for obvious reasons, love this movie as well. I think probably the best additions are the fact that like the action never lets up. I think almost like every scene or every other scene is some kind of action scene or some kind of really cool like spy espionage scene. It's really great, and it really keeps up that fast, fun pace. I think the highlights are definitely Henry Cavill being the main villain of this movie, such as like the twist when it's revealed that who he is. The helicopter scene is so good. And I also just like how it kind of plays off of Rogue Nation a lot, and like that the villain of that movie is kind of like having his follower, you know what I mean? Like it kind of plays into like the aftermath of that movie. But I think Fallout's a great movie. I think it's probably my favorite looking movie of the entire franchise. It kind of goes for like a darker color palette. But I really enjoy the movie. I really enjoy just like what it's about. Yeah, that's why it comes in at number 2 for me. But at number 1, I have Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. For me, this movie starts out a storyline that is just the best. And this is also the movie where we get introduced to Rebecca Ferguson. And I love her character. I love the way she interacts with Ethan Hunt, and she's trying to do what's best for her, but also, you know, not betray Ethan. And I just love her character because she's like about this life of, maybe she doesn't want to be, you know, all this intelligence. She wants to get away with Ethan. She just wants to be free, but she wants to be free with Ethan, and without him, she doesn't feel like she can be. They also do one of my favorite villains in this movie, being Solomon Lane. mix that with the fact that Jeremy Renner is also in this movie, which I, again, very much enjoyed. But when I think back about this movie and why I have it over so many others, it's because, one, the creativity. There's an opera house. There's a whole thing where they have to sneak in to that, like, water, like he has to go underwater and like hold his breath for so long, and he has to like put the card in, and Benji has to like walk through this thing perfectly, and if he doesn't, then it goes off. It's just it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie series, and that is what, when I talk about, you know, I like my action, but I also like my espionage. That's what I'm talking about. I want to see more of the secret spy stuff and the infiltrating places. It was one of my favorite things about Rogue Nation, along with the fact that Tom Cruise literally hung out the side of a plane, which was awesome, by the way. But yeah, Rogue Nation just has all of the things that, for me, encompass a great Mission Impossible movie. And when I watch it, I just don't have any flaws with it. That is my ranking of the Mission Impossible movies. Again, let me know down in the comments below, what is your Mission Impossible ranking? Or if maybe you haven't seen The Final Reckoning, what is, you know, are you excited to see The Final Reckoning? You know, what are you expecting it to be? What is your ranking maybe before The Final Reckoning? And does, you know, The Final Reckoning change your ranking? Because it definitely could. There are things in that movie that, you know, kind of reference that other movies in the series, could make them better, could make them worse. So let me know all of that down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, Kernels.